In Vedanta, we believe in God, in Vedas, and in cycles. The belief about cycles is as follows. All matter throughout the universe is the outcome of one primal matter called Akash. And all force, whether gravitation, attraction, or repulsion, or life, is the outcome of one primal force called Prana. Pran, acting on Akash, is creating or projecting the universe. At the beginning of a cycle, Akash is motionless, unmanifested. Then Prana begins to act more and more, creating grosser and grosser forms out of the Akasha. Plants, men, animals, stars, and so on. After an incalculable time, this evolution ceases and involution begins, everything being resolved back through finer and finer forms into the original Akash and Pran when a new cycle follows. Now there is something beyond Akash and Pran. Both can be resolved into a third thing called Mahat, or the cosmic mind. This cosmic mind does not create Akash and Pran, but changes itself into them. We will now take up the beliefs about mind, soul, and God, according to the universally accepted Sankhya philosophy. In perception, in the case of vision, for instance, there are, first of all, the instruments of vision, the eyes. Behind the instruments is the organ of vision or Indriya, the optic nerves and its centers, which is not the external instrument but without which the eyes will not see. More still is needed for perception. The mind or manas must come and attach itself to the organ, and besides this, the sensation must be carried to the intellect or buddhi, the determinative and reactive state of the mind. When the reaction comes from buddhi, along with it flashes the external world and egoism. But everything is not complete. Just as every picture, being composed of successive impulses of light, must be united on something stationary to form a whole, so all the ideas in the mind must be gathered and projected on something that is stationary relatively to the body and mind, that is, on what is called as the soul or Purusha or Atman. According to the Sankhya philosophy, the reactive state of the mind called buddhi or intellect is the outcome, the change or a certain manifestation of the Mahat or cosmic mind. The Mahat becomes changed into vibrating thoughts and then becomes in one part changed into the organs and in the other part into the fine particles of matter. Out of the combination of all these, the whole of this universe is produced. Behind even Mahat, the Sankhya conceives of a certain state which is called Avyakta or unmanifested, where even the manifestation of mind is not present, but only the cause exists. It is also called Prakriti. Beyond this Prakriti, and eternally separate from it, is the Purusha, the soul of the Sankhya, which is without attributes and omnipresent. The Purusha is not the doer but the witness. The illustration of the crystal is used to explain the Purusha. The latter is said to be like a crystal without any color, before which different colors are placed, and then It seems to be colored by the colors before it, but in reality it is not. Vedanta rejects the Sankhya idea of the soul and nature. They claim that between them there is a huge gulf to be bridged over. On the one hand, the Sankhya system comes to nature, and then at once it has to jump over the other side and come to the soul, which is entirely separate from nature. How can these different colors, as the Sankhya calls them, be able to act on the soul, which by its nature is colorless? So in Vedanta, from the very first affirm that this soul and this nature are one. The Advaita Vedanta reject this theory of the soul, and having nearly the whole range of Upanishads in their favor, build their philosophy entirely upon them. All the books contained in me, Upanishads, have one subject, one task before them, to prove the following theme. Just as by knowledge of one lump of clay, we have the knowledge of all the clay in the universe, so what is that, knowing which we know everything in the universe? The idea of the non-dualists is to generalize the whole universe into one, that something which is really the whole of this universe. And they claim that this whole universe is one, that it is one being manifesting itself in all these various forms. They admit that what the Sankhya calls nature exists, but say the nature is God. It is this being, the Sat, which has become converted into all these. The universe, man, soul, and everything that exists, mind and Mahat, are but the manifestations of that one Sat, or truth. But then the difficulty arises that this would be pantheism. How came that Sat, which is unchangeable, as they admit, to be changed into that which is changeable and perishable? The non-dualists here have a theory which they call vivartvadh, or apparent manifestation. According to the dualists and Sankhya, the whole of this universe is evolution of primal nature. According to some of the non-dualists and some of the dualists, the whole of this universe is evolved from God. And according to non-dualist proper, the followers of Shankaracharya, the whole universe is the apparent evolution of God. God is the material cause of this universe, but not really, only apparently. The celebrated illusion used is of the rope and the snake, where the rope appeared to be the snake, but was not really so. The rope did not really change into the snake. Even so, this whole universe, as it exists, is that being. It is unchanged, and all the changes we see in it are only apparent. These changes are caused by Desh, Kal, and Nimit, space, time, and causation. According to a higher psychological generalization by Nama and Rupa, name and form, it is by name and form that one thing is differentiated from another. The name and form alone causes the difference. In reality, they are one and the same. The rope is changed into the snake apparently only, and when the delusion ceases, the snake vanishes. When one is in ignorance, he sees the phenomenon and does not see God. When he sees God, this universe vanishes entirely. Ignorance, or Maya, as it is called, is the cause of all this phenomena. The absolute, the unchangeable, being taken as this manifested universe. And in the Vedanta philosophy, It is called Anirvachaniya or inexpressible. Maya then is the real cause of this universe. Maya gives the name and the form to what Brahman or God gives the material, and the latter seems to have been transformed into all this.